Hey, it's Noelle Bloom here, and welcome to Bloom TV. You're in the right place if you want to create a business that makes a difference and live a fabulous life. Do you have this nagging pressure to compete with other people? To the point to where it's causing a sense of loneliness or disconnection in your business or personal life? Do you want to create more meaningful relationships that span beyond social media? If so, you are going to love today's episode because I'm going to sit down and talk with a very special guest, and her name is Janine Flint. She has over a decade's experience in communication and coaching, and she's truly a connector by nature. And she aspires to teach people that professional collaboration is the key to success, happiness, and fulfillment. And she's going to share some simple strategies that will help you find and create meaningful relationships to not only create more business opportunities, but also to live a more happier life. So I'd love for you to join us in this conversation as we share how you can shift from a competition mindset to a collaboration mindset. So let's dive in. Janine, thank you so much for joining me today on Bloom TV.
Thank you, Noelle. I'm delighted to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited we got time to sit down and talk about why it's so important for us to collaborate with each other over competition. And I think that you are the perfect person to talk to because you're a connector by nature. So I'm so excited to talk to you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. So am I.
Yeah, so I'd love to start off with how I love to start off the interviews, which is why did you start your business? Or actually, how did you come up with the idea to start your business? And then why did you start it?
So I think I've always wanted to work for myself. And when I was in my 20s, I went the whole corporate route. And then for all my sins, I ended up lecturing at university.
Mm-hmm.
And there was always something at the back of my mind that I wanted to start. And I did Marie Forleo's B School. And that was a catalyst for getting me started. And that was in 2014. So it took me some time. And I'd say the big reason why is because I wanted the independence and because I wanted to do things according to how I envisioned it. And I wasn't really doing well in the 9-to-5 culture. And I wanted to know what it could be like living life differently on my own terms with my own schedule. And I've always, I think, been a little bit of a rebel and chosen the path less traveled. Mm. So that was just kind of part of the journey, and I'd say it was quite organic because it wasn't something that I just decided overnight. It had been kind of bubbling over since 2014. And then I really took the leap of faith at the end of last year. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So starting a business, you said you always knew that was something that you wanted to do?
Yes. I think I'm a freedom fighter at heart and I'm very independent. So because I had that freedom fighter little rebel in me, I didn't ever do well in a very boxed in culture. So I wanted to know what life could be like on my own terms. So it was a curiosity and it was a passion about just wanting to do it on my own, really.
Yeah, I love that because you were very in tune with the way you work and you knew that freedom was something that you really wanted to strive for. And that's what I hear from a lot of people why they want to start a business is because they know that somewhere inside of them, they know they can live a better life, a more free life. And then we just get educated. Like you said, you invested in yourself and then we start to get the knowledge that we need to start to build something sustainable. So, thank you for sharing that. And how was your entrepreneurship different than maybe what you expected? Because I know the last time we talked about some of the loneliness and some of the challenges that we faced sort of running the one-woman show. So, did you have any expectations for what life would be like with a business, or what was the reality when you actually started?
Yeah. So that is an excellent question. And I wish I would have had more conversations about this initially. So I think I was a little bit stuck in an ideal situation where people were going to come to me, where I was going to be in a collaborative space from kind of the second or the third month, and that there wouldn't be this lull, you know. And I think, as my husband said, it takes 2 years for a business to get off the ground for most people. And are you okay with the space that you're working in during that time? Or do you need other people? Because some people, I think, they do well on their own. In fact, they get energized being on their own. And for me, I was de-energized. I really felt my energy go down. And then I was sitting in coffee shops, and then later on I found a co-working space, which was great. So I think for me, that was the one thing, you know, even though I'm in my 30s now, I didn't realize how much I needed other people on a daily basis to be able to thrive. So I think you can only understand the impact of that once you really do it and you're doing it on a daily consistent basis, and what it is that you need, because every human being is different. We all need different things at different times of our life, and it was only through doing it that I realized that.
You know what? I understand 100% because I was the same way. I've been social for all of my life. I love to have a group of people to support me. I love to talk to people on a daily basis. And then kind of going from college, having like close friends, or no, even going back to like high school, I was, you know, the person who was talking to everyone. I had a large group of friends, mingled around different groups. So I've always been social. It carried over to college, and then even in the workspace after college, and then jumping full-time in entrepreneurship where it was just me in my own space. I had social media, but I think we all understand this. Social media is a different type of, it doesn't supplement real connections, real friendships, real partnerships. And just like you, I feel like I need some, at least a group of people to either bounce ideas off of or to work with. So for some of us who get energized with collaborating with people, connecting with people, we can then feel de-energized, or kind of, I like to call it energetically low, where I kind of feel like I'm not quite myself because I don't have that connection, that real human connection. And like you, going to coffee shops, and that helped a little bit, right? Because you see people, you're people watching, right?
Yes, it did help a little bit. It lifted the energy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then at least for me, I at first I worked in the first year just at my kitchen table. No one else really, just at my kitchen table, just head down, trying to figure out entrepreneurship space. How am I going to start this business? What do I need? I mean, I spent almost 8 months on a business plan. Now, I don't recommend anyone doing that, but I did win 3rd place in the very first California statewide business plan contest. And I worked on it for a long time. But at that time, that first year, I was like head down. And then I needed to start to talk to other people or to find other entrepreneurs. And then I started to branch out a little bit, but it can be very lonely, or at least what's your experience as far as longing for that connection?
My experience is that it happens, as mentioned, and my advice would be to, because we all learn from each other, right? That's why we're having this conversation. It's like we don't need to reinvent the wheel, because I've walked the path, you've walked the path. So what advice could we give other women that are just starting out or finding that they're not doing so well being alone? And I would say find a group, go to networking events, because there's so many here in Cape Town, networking events for women only. Find a power posse that you can connect with and plug into them. Invite them round to your place. I've had coaching circles here at home, or anything really. Just connect with the people in your community, because local is key. I think quite often, especially social media, like we reach out to people through the web, and that's fantastic. And thanks to that, we can have this conversation between South Africa and America, and that's amazing. But when it comes to the value of face-to-face time, don't undervalue how many people there are in your local community that you could connect with, right? That you could invite over for like tacos and, you know, drink and just chat about what inspiration do you have for each other? What are your challenges? What's missing for you in your business right now? Where could you use support? What are your key concerns? I think it's these heart-to-heart, face-to-face conversations that are missing. And every community has a bunch of entrepreneurs or women. And yeah, connecting with them is key, I think. And I think once I started to do that, my life changed, because then I could just talk about the real challenges and not have this mask on of pretense or that everything is okay. And it's amazing because once you share something that really matters to you, other people feel that they have the space to do the same, you know, and then you realize that, oh, we're all going through the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, I think there's a lot of pressure online to seem like we all have it together, right? Business is booming. We have you know, all of our friends and people are in masterminds or just a group of people to share ideas with. And sometimes a lot of us are really suffering inside. And I've done so much research on depression and entrepreneurship and just the loneliness and the different emotional and mental and psychological trauma that can happen from us just secluding ourselves and just working hard, plunging away, and not really getting that connection, that lust for life that we need, that comes from other people. And you mentioned that every community sort of has their entrepreneurs. For me, I live in a very small town, so there's not many. There's some entrepreneurs, but I've even traveled 45 minutes north. I've traveled 4 hours south, even 2 hours north and back. So 4 hours of driving in one day. So that way I can be closer to San Francisco and go to events and things like that. So, you know, if you're watching this and you're feeling that loneliness or like you need to connect, don't be afraid to travel a little bit. And when I do go to some events in San Francisco, which is just 2 hours away from where I live, people are saying, you drove 2 hours from here, so you have to drive 2 hours back? I'm like, yeah, but it's worth it. I'm not crazy. I just know that, you know, I'm prioritizing that connection because I need it. And I just find ways to make the ride enjoyable. But before I keep going, I want to go back to something that you said because it's really interesting. You used the word power posse, right? Can you talk to me a little bit about what that is?
So it's a group of like-minded women that are there to support you and are there to celebrate with you and are also there to hold the space during the times when things aren't going so great. So I think when I say celebrate, I mean it in all ways. It's not just when life's going well. It's celebrating when things are not going well, to encourage you and to support you. So today in South Africa, there's this incredible race. It's called the Comrades. I think it's 90 or it's 89 kilometers or 98. Anyway, it's a crazy distance that you run between Pietermaritzburg and Durban. And just watching everybody, encouraging everyone along the way. And I think that's what it's all about. It's finding that power posse of women that are there to support you, your tribe, you know, and connecting with them in some way. And if you cannot travel for whatever reason, or you're a new mom and you're housebound or whatever the case may be, find a way to connect with people, even if it has to be online. But I mean, face to face, and we know that it trumps everything else, right? And I think just the regularity of that. And for me, I started it. I put an invitation out. I'm part of incredible networking groups here in Cape Town, but I also put the invitation out. And I got in touch with a few others that were entrepreneurs and that I know. Some were acquaintances, some were friends. And I said, hey, let's meet up. Let's do something. And then one thing led to another. And now there's a regular group that meets up, and it's fantastic. So I think that's really the power posse. It's like an unconditional support and a space where the same women come together and meet and support each other.
Yeah, thank you for that. Because I know some people say, okay, I want a power posse, but what is that, right? And then like you mentioned, people who share common goals, people who can hold that space for you when things aren't going well. And I love that you mentioned that, because the reality of business is that you're not going to be on a high the whole time. Entrepreneurship is I was going to do that. It's a crazy roller coaster that you're riding on. I mean, for me personally, sometimes I can start the day off extremely high. I'm excited. I'm going to slay the day. It's going to be amazing. I'm working on this. I feel very productive. And then midday, I'm just like, oh man, what did I create? Like, does this make any sense? Am I explaining this right? Whether I'm working on a training. And then at night, it's like, okay, this is great. But I do have a lot of low days, you know, in which I feel like, oh, wow, I do need that support. And like you mentioned, celebrating things, even when things are not going well. That's so important. I remember a distinct conversation that I had. So when I first started my business, I did it by myself for a while, but then I found a group of other women virtually. One was in Los Angeles, the other one was in Vancouver, and we had a Facebook group that we were in, and we commented, we shared different things, you know, had phone calls. So we kind of had ourselves like a mastermind, but we didn't charge each other anything. We just were the support system, and that made all the difference.
Right.
Yes, I remember. So after college, I started to be a substitute teacher, and I had my first day substituting, and it was preschool. And I remember I was exhausted, and I was like, I cannot do this. So the first thing I did, I drove home, hopped in the Facebook group, and was like, ladies, I'm so discouraged right now, you know, and I just had a bad day. There was, you know, 35 little kids that I had to manage who weren't listening. I couldn't control the classroom. And I think for me, what that signified is that I realized that building this business was going to be a lot more difficult, a lot more time consuming. And I just couldn't see myself doing that line of work for as long as I probably needed to get my business off the ground. And they were there, Janine, to support me and gave me encouragement and said, you can do it, you know. And then from there, I eventually transitioned into doing, teaching older kids, and then eventually high school. So that was my sweet spot.
Okay.
I was like, I can do this. But if it wasn't for that group of women who held that space for me to go in there and explain and just encourage me, I mean, it meant everything to me. And I've told them before that they made all the difference when I first started out. So
absolutely. And I think just being in a postmodern culture, postmodern culture, actually, we are more isolated than ever. I mean, Facebook is incredible and all the technology we have, but we're more isolated than ever. And there's so many studies that have come up to say that in a lot of people, depression, high anxiety, because I think we spoke about in the last call, we live in that VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous world. So it's now more important than ever to be part of a communities. Our grandparents did it, right? Even our parents, some of them, they were still plugged into communities, into neighborhoods. We have become a generation that's isolated. And human beings are not supposed to be living in isolation. We thrive together, but on our own, anxiety and depression increases.
Yeah.
If you're an entrepreneur that's working online most of the day, you have to make a plan somehow to plug in, because human beings, we need to be with others.
Yeah, I feel so inspired right now. I feel like I need to get online, connect with a meetup group, because I'm part of a lot of communities online, but I've actually went out and met with people that had nothing to do with business, but to just connect with people who share like interests. So yeah, and you know what? I want to get into this amazing phrase, which is Ubuntu, right? I got it?
Nearly. Yes. So it's Ubuntu is the phrase. Yes.
Yeah. So can you talk to us a little bit about what that is, what it means, and just how is it so powerful? Because when we were first talking, I just kind of heard you explain it, and I was like, wow, we all need to hear this and adopt that philosophy. So can you share a little bit about what that is?
Sure. So it's a South African phrase, and I think it was popularized by Nelson Mandela and Archbishop Desmond Tutu. I'm sure most Americans will know about Nelson Mandela, and some will know about Archbishop Desmond Tutu. And Ubuntu really means I am because we are. And that when you create something like a business, and you can apply it to different areas of domains of your life, but let's just take business. So if you create something, you create it and you can achieve something from it, be it financial or personal fulfillment, but at the same time, you are doing that for the community as a whole. So how are you serving others through how you are showing up and what you are doing with your business? How is it that you are contributing to society? What are you making better? So it's not that you can't be selfish in terms of like, I want to earn money or do well or be fulfilled. It's about doing that and serving the community and contributing to the good of others. So in Africa and in South Africa, there is a concept of very much a community orientation. And so Ubuntu is really that concept of I am because we are. I do things for others to serve others. And at the same time, taking care of my own needs. But if you're only in it for yourself, then that's not really a business. So that, I think, is a concept that is so beautiful. It's like, how can my business be used to contribute to social good? How can it be used to plug into society? You know, so I think, yeah, it's a wonderful concept that really drives me every day when I wake up. And I think, what can I do today that serves others in some small way? Even if it is a profit-driven thing, because we're allowed to, you know, drive profits, but at the same time, take care of others.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, thank you so much for sharing. And so what type of differences have you seen in your business as you've started to open up and give people invitations to come over, or just, you know, I think you mentioned last time that in your community there felt like many people were competing against each other. So I'd love to know, what type of changes in your business and life did you see once you opened up and you kind of shifted the dynamic in your community to be more of or to adopt more of a collaboration mindset versus a competition mindset?
So I think the first thing that I noticed is that the panic left. The high anxiety that I have of I must get, and that scarcity mindset, it left. I don't even know how to explain it. I think before, when I was on my own and it was just about me, and it was about get, there was a high anxiety attached to that. And when I shifted my mindset from competition towards collaboration, it just feels easy.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. And it feels like there's more opportunities that are kind of just organically unfolding. Previously, it was a push, and now it feels like I'm being pulled towards. I think that's a key distinction. Before, it felt like efforting and pushing, and now I'm being pulled towards things organically as they unfold, as people come to me. It's not like, you know, work falls out of the sky. Of course, I'm actively engaging and putting myself forward. But there's a difference in how I'm coming across. I think previously my energy was desperate, and now my energy has shifted towards collaboration. And as a result, there's things coming and my way. And I think we all know what it's like to feel that you're over efforting, and then there's flow.
Yes.
And that's the space that I'm living in now, is that space of flow and kind of pull and not push, you know, it's all organic. And it makes a huge difference. There's more energy available. It feels more authentic. The ego-based way of doing business didn't work for me. I was miserable.
Yeah.
So general happiness factor too.
Thank you. Yes. And I think you explained it very, very well. I think everyone watching can understand as far as a scarcity mindset. So when I think of a scarcity mindset, or something that I've experienced, is that there's not enough to go around. So then we have to compete with each other. I have to have more beautiful pictures. I have to have more media coverage. I have to have, you know, a bigger audience. And instead of having that one track mind of there's not enough clients, or there's not enough, you know, audience, or, you know, I want people to watch my stuff and not her stuff. I've adopted the mindset over time that there's enough for everybody. And I've noticed that I've had more fun when I connect with other people who are even doing similar work. You know, I'm not worried about the competition, because I know people will hire me for different characteristics than they'd hire someone else. And I think we all have our unique genius, and it shows. And so for me, adopting that mindset has allowed me to just create greater connections, have more fun in business, and also get ahead, because we're sharing information, we're serving our audience. And whether it's, you know, partnering with people, whether it's, you know, doing a collaboration on a program or some type of package or a retreat, or just promoting someone else's is ebook or webinar or something like that. But I think the more we come together, we can grow together. And I think that's the importance of this conversation, is to just shift the mindset that there's more than enough to go around for everyone. And when we connect with each other and we get with each other and share ideas, we can grow not only professionally, but personally too.
Yes, absolutely. And my new mantra for this year is I measure my success by how much fun I'm having.
Oh, yes. I love all
And
things.
collaboration ties into that.
Yes, yes. And I
More
love
fun.
all things fun in business because I think that we start off with so much inspiration. So we want to have a good time. We want things to feel or be in flow and to feel easy. And although business, there's difficult parts of it, but we forget to have fun. And that's the conversation that I've been really wanting to shed light to, that you can have fun in business, have a good time, make money, and still enjoy your life at the same time. So I love that you mentioned fun.
Yes, absolutely. It's a key indicator for me this year. I measure my success by how much fun I'm having.
Yeah, I love that. Where did you come up with that inspiration? Did you feel like maybe you at some point weren't having fun? Was that connected to collaborating with other people?
Yes. So at the end of last year, when I was doing a coaching program, it came up through the coaching conversation that I felt that I wasn't having fun when it was still in the I business and way of doing things. And I felt very off center, really. And I didn't feel connected. I didn't feel authentic. And then I said to myself that one of my key indicators of success this year is going to be I measure my success by how much fun I'm having, because I felt that fun was missing, and then it felt very dry and stale and authentic. And once the collaboration happened and I moved into the space of the the Ubuntu,
Yeah.
then the magic started happening. And there's fun that comes with that, you know. When your business is about serving others truly from the heart, it flows.
Yeah.
It can only flow from that space. And it might even take you on quite a different route too, and that's okay.
Yeah, that is okay. Thank you. And something else that I wanted to talk to you about is the idea of actually collaborating with people outside of your industry. So I know that you mentioned before that there were a lot of consultants, Cape Town, and that kind of fed the need to compete, right? A little bit. And you guys kind of collaborated, and something that I've seen too is the power in collaborating with people even beyond your industry. And I think that being able to connect with other businesses, whether it's people in real estate, whether they're not consultants, or maybe they're not building a business around an expertise, but maybe they have a physical product or something in fashion, or there's so many different businesses. But when you start to look at other people doing business in other industries, you get inspired. You can, maybe if you're running up against the same business problem, strategizing or seeing what they're doing and sharing those ideas can help propel you forward. And I know for me, for a very long time, I was stuck in the coaching consulting type of bubble. And I really felt the need to start to collaborate with people outside of that sphere. And when I started to do that, I felt opportunities opening up. I got inspired by seeing what someone was doing. It didn't relate directly to my business, but I can see how I could apply that strategy. So something that I want, for you guys watching is don't be afraid to go outside of your industry and talk with other people, see what they're doing, because it can be a very powerful shift. I'm blanking on a story about, I think it was how McDonald's came up with the drive-through. I think something wasn't working. I'm going to try to do the story, but something wasn't working in the business. And someone was driving by and saw that a bank was actually creating some drive-through for the bank. And then they thought, can we apply this to fast food? Right. And then, so I think that was the first concept of thinking about the drive-through fast food industry. And so that's just an example that I read that inspired me, that you can look out and see what other entrepreneurs are doing in a different space and ask yourself, can I apply that to my business? So I always get very inspired about looking outside. But have you had an experience where maybe connecting with someone outside of the coaching industry has, brought you opportunities?
That is such a good point that you mentioned, and my brain was ticking over as you were saying that. And actually somebody that I'm thinking of is my husband, who's in the other room, and he has a fintech startup, so financial technical fintech, I think you understand, in town. And I've really learned a lot from how they work with clients, how they do networking, how they invite people, how they attract people, how they get people to sign on. And that is a financial services industry. This is a bunch of actuaries and people that have financial maths, master's degrees in financial maths. I mean, it has absolutely nothing to do with my world or my reality at all. But just through seeing how they've evolved, and they literally also started in a coffee shop. 2 years later, they've got 46 people working for them. They have literally grown overnight. They're in Johannesburg, they're in Cape Town, really successful. And I look at how they've done it and how they've signed up clients and how they started having dinners with people, like quite intimate, and inviting partners and their friends, and then getting people to sign up, and then having these big networking events where they talk about topical issues related to finance. And it just gave me an entirely different perspective of how to potentially get clients. Like, have these things where you have present topics that are topical and invite people to it, and the way they did that. And that inspired me. So absolutely, you can learn a heck of a lot. And I never thought I would learn so much from a fintech startup, but just having witnessed it from the startup, the day zero to where they are now, 46 employees later, learn so much. So yes, I think finance and coaching, it could be a really good marriage, haha, you know. So absolutely.
Yeah, and I think having a collaborative mindset and over a competition mindset, I think you first have to understand that, or at least accept to be open-minded, that you don't know everything, you don't have everything, and you can't do it alone. And yes. And I think most of the time as women, we want to feel independent. At least for me, I have a very independent personality. I don't want much help. I feel like I can do it all. I can handle it. I'm good at juggling different things with a little bit of focus to get ahead. But even as the years started to go on, I started to realize that I cannot do it on my own. I move a lot slower on my own. I'm not the best at everything. And it's better to find other people, whether it's collaboration or just meeting with other people to share ideas. And actually engaging in that has made a big difference in my personal life. And like you said, you feel more in flow.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks for sharing that. You've also given me some inspiration, because as we've had this conversation, I'm starting to think about other industries that I haven't connected with and that could be potential to connect with and to learn from, because this is a learning game, right? This entrepreneurial journey, it's a game of learning, and you're going to be learning forever. And what better way to learn from people in completely different industries: finance, engineering, medicine. I mean, there's just so much to learn. So you've also given me some food for thought. So thank you.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you. So I would love, before we wrap up, I would love for us to both talk about some things that people can do to kind of get started. And so we don't just want to, tell people you want to collaborate with people, there's nothing wrong with competition, but you don't want to have that on your conscious, like I'm competing, but you want to have a more collaborative mindset. So I would love to go beyond that theory and actually get into a few maybe tips or strategies that, maybe that has worked for us that we can share. So for someone who's maybe feeling a little bit lonely, they feel like they've been cut off from the world. Maybe they're active on social media, but their personal life or their business life, they don't really have much connections. What is something simple that you think could help them launch a collaborative effort to start to feel more in flow in business?
So I'll speak about what worked for me. When I was living in the Netherlands, I used to go to something called meetup.com. I think it's global. And I went to an expat because of course I was South African living in the Netherlands, and actually I met a really good friend who is Dutch and actually came to visit me in Cape Town in January this year. And we met through meetup.com, and we became very good friends when I was living in the Netherlands. She came to visit me.
Yeah.
And that's how I started this whole, at the time I was doing my master's in looking at whether people could use social media to create local networks, expats at least. So it was and it was part of my research project. So it was actually just part of my master's research, but then it started becoming a thing because I really enjoyed it. So my advice would be is find a networking space that feels good to you, because we're all going to feel different, and it might not. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe meetup.com isn't your thing. Maybe at the local, if it is that you go to local church or community, there would be a group there that you could meet up with. So that would be number one. And then once you've done that, you could make a list and brainstorm, who is it in my community that I know is thinking about starting a business, has started a business, is hustling on the side, that I could potentially invite around to my place and say, everybody, we just having like a nachos evening, we're having something to drink, and let's talk about what matters to us, what's missing in our business, what concerns aren't being taken care of, how we could support each other. And it's not industry specific, so make it quite open.
Yeah.
But, I kind of attach a theme to it that, could be topical and something that could help other women. So that would be my second thing, is just open up your home and host an evening and say every 8 weeks or 6 weeks, let's get together, or every month, however it works for you, and see what happens. It's all an experiment. Maybe it doesn't go according to plan, and that's fine. Just see it as a game, like a fun game. Like when we were kids, we used to do things like this all the time. If it didn't work out, we didn't get hung up about it. So just go do these things. Maybe it's a disaster. Maybe you meet somebody incredible. Maybe it inspires you to go and have a conversation or coffee with somebody you never would have otherwise been able to connect to. And when you start opening up your home to others, to have conversations from the heart, other creatives, other entrepreneurs, it's incredible what can come from that, really.
I love that you brought up the idea of, if it doesn't go well, it's okay. And I think sometimes, at least me, for a strategist, I think of doing everything, there has to be some sort of, maybe some return. I'm very mindful of my time, but I think just doing something and then releasing the expectation for that outcome feels so freeing. And then it feels more like fun, right? To just experiment and to see how things work. So for me, what I recommend people do is to look for events. And the reason why I'm talking about events is because I love live events. Now, it doesn't have to be necessarily for business. Some of my best connections and friendships have come not because it was a business event, but because it was something else, like a women's brunch or something like that. And I actually had went to meetup.com one of those years where I was feeling so lonely in my business, went to meetup.com, had set up a profile, and went to a women's brunch and had a great time and made some friendships. So anything that you have to go out and do and meet people, whether it's business or not, has always been energizing for me. And I like to go, I love to go to at least 3 or 4 business events a year, so I can, get reinformed that, I'm not alone. The loneliness, the ups and downs, the anxiety, the stress, I'm not alone. And I think just having those conversations with other entrepreneurs and just connecting with them, again, sharing ideas, learning what people are working on, and it just makes all the difference. So if you're comfortable with opening your home, do that. If you just want to make more friendships, find out what people are doing in your community. I truly believe that every community has something that you can either get involved in, even on a very small scale. So if you can't imagine yourself meeting with someone every week, that's fine. You can do once a month. You can do once every 90 days. It's all up to you on what you need. And Janine, I think you brought up a really good point, is that everyone is different. So when you find out what you need, and then you can go about creating a plan to fit those needs.
Exactly. And I want to tie in, if I may, with something you said earlier which I thought was so fantastic about collaborating or getting in touch with people that are completely outside of your industry. Something that just came up for me was getting outside of our headspace sometimes means that we could do things that we wouldn't usually do. So maybe you go to a free yoga class or a free meditation class, just to meet people in a completely different space. Because I've also had some of my most incredible heartfelt connections in these meditation classes, yoga classes, and you can find free ones where you don't have to pay. Or maybe there's a community art class that you could take, or a pottery class, which is something that I did last year that I absolutely loved. Doing art classes again in a local studio. It was fantastic and met so many people, had great conversations that had nothing to do with coaching and consulting. And every time it opened up space for me, it opens up space. As the yoga and meditation. It might be something, maybe it's, I'm just looking at my plant in front of my computer. Maybe it's like a health brunch or a business networking brunch, or maybe it's how to grow your own plants at home or your own, because, most communities have these free talks, and that's where the magic happens.
Yeah. I love that you did it, because it's all about connection. I mean, I think this conversation about the collaborative mindset versus the competition mindset, I think it spans so much further beyond business. And that's why I started Bloom TV, because it was always important for me to have conversations beyond business. So I think as entrepreneurs, we have that connection as we're doing meaningful work. We're trying to make a difference. We're trying to create an incredible life. But there's still another part of that is us just living an amazing life. And with that comes connection. And like you mentioned, I've been to painting classes or have done, a lot of different things that have connected me to people that took me out of this office. And I got to feel like alive again. So if that's you, if you're someone who needs that connection and you're feeling that loneliness, start this week. What is something that you can do to actually feel energized again?
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be huge. I always say to my coaching clients, like, what would be like a percentage wise, what would be challenging for you, but at the same time doesn't feel like you have to do a 180 flip on your life. And it might just be a 10% stretch, like in the next week, I'm just going to do one event that I wouldn't usually go to. I'm going to have one conversation that I wouldn't usually have. Perhaps that's it, and that's enough. And if you continue that your momentum, you won't recognize your life in 6 months' time. It doesn't have to be a 180 overnight. It can be incremental and small. It could be one conversation once a week. And then watch what happens. Magic, baby, magic.
Magic. How relieving is that to know that we can take small steps and it doesn't have to feel like a huge leap? Janine, thank you so much for joining me today. This has been an amazing conversation that I think I've been waiting to have with someone, and there was no better person than to have it with you. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It has been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you. So for those of you watching, I'd love to hear from you. Head over to noellebloom.com and leave a comment. Let us know what's your single biggest insight that you're taking away from this conversation. Did you hear anything that you can take and apply to your business or to your life? What's been your experience with competition, and have you had any challenges trying to move from a competition mindset to a collaborative mindset? Again, I'd love to hear from you. If you like this video, please share it with your friends or your community. Thank you so much for watching. As you're out there making a difference in the world, remember to have fun, live free, and feel fabulous. I'll catch you next time on Bloom TV. Bye.
Bye.
Are you on the VIP list? If not, you're missing out. Head to noellebloom.com now and sign up to get free exclusive content to help you create a business and live fabulous.